all the techniques of yoga, all the techniques of self-development. When we say self-development, it's a journey going from identification with the body. Slowly we transcend, identifying ourselves with the prana, go beyond the prana to mind, transcend the mind to intellect, cross the emotions and become one with the bliss, or the Chetana Matra, or being our own state of consciousness. This journey of life is what is the journey called yoga, a conscious process. Has been divided into essentially two different parts. One is the method of discipline, abhyasa, and the other is the method of non-attachment, vairagya, let go. The method of discipline further divided into two different categories. One category is where you have specific practices called Raja Yoga, and the way that you can manage the daily activity to contribute towards this journey, that's what is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is not doing some specific activity. Karma Yoga basically means doing an activity of the daily life. But then how can the daily life activity can contribute towards this journey? Every work has two components. One is the work per se, and the other is the attitude behind the work. Work depends upon the world outside. Attitude basically depends upon you. You can change your attitude to see that that work can contribute towards your journey towards spirituality. What kind of work, it does not matter. But what attitude, what matters. What attitude that you have, that's what matters. A right kind of an attitude makes the work to be heaven. The same thing in a wrong way, the work can become hell. It's up to us. On the methods of non-attachment, we have two different techniques. I can use the intellect to see that how I can transcend my journey by intellectual process. That's what is Jnana Yoga. Jnana does not mean acquiring the knowledge. Jnana does not mean having a good memory. Jnana does not mean having an ability to argue. But Jnana does not means basically that I can use my intellectual ability to see that how I can become one with the bliss personality. That's what is Jnana Yoga. And the last one, I can make use of these emotions to go towards that ultimate. That's what is Bhakti Yoga. So today the Shloka Sangraha that we have talked about, we have chanted. These are the shlokas which are essentially focusing you towards that divinity, towards the blissful state, with the help of our emotions. In fact, the most important of all the techniques is this Bhakti Yoga, for the simple reason that the most powerful instrument within us is these emotions. Unfortunately, today, in the education system, we have hardly anything to train our emotions. It's so much focused on the intellect, very little given as a support at the intellectual, at the emotional level. But when you are pushed into the life, the problems of life are not essentially intellectual, but they are mostly connected with our emotions. That's where basically we enter into all kinds of confusions. That's why Bhakti Yoga becomes particularly very important in today's world, because that we know how to handle the emotions. When we say emotions, it's not that we have too many emotions. There's only one emotion that we have. That's what is love. And love itself manifests in various forms. It manifests when you are in the state of meeting with somebody who is in need. It manifests in the form of compassion. The same thing, you go to a child, and towards the child when you have love, you have a special word in Sanskrit, we call it as Vatsalya. The same thing that when you go to somebody who is an elderly, learned, both age-wise as well as the knowledge-wise, you feel like touching his feet, you feel like going in front of him. That same love manifests in the form of a respect. So this love is one emotion which can take all these different forms. But why those things take in different forms? To see that you can transcend beyond the material level and go to the spiritual level of that particular person. You are able to recognize that. Your love is so powerful that it can make not only to come out of your complaint, but raise yourself consciously to a level where you can appreciate, not only appreciate, but you can see the divinity in a person. That is the power of love. A conscious journey which takes you from complaint to tolerate, to accept, to appreciate, and finally a respect in the world. Don't keep the God in the temple in an idol, but then bring the God to the human level so that you can see the God in the human being. That's what is the way that Indian philosophy always looked at. That the God is not somebody sitting in the heaven or sitting inside the temple. Nantosti mama divyanam vibhutinam parantapa. That's what Krishna says to Arjuna. In Bhagavad Gita, there is no limit in my manifestations. That means I don't use the same mouth twice. Vivekananda has been extraordinary, so let me create one more Vivekananda, one more Vivekananda. No. Krishna has come once, wonderful, everybody appreciated, let me try once again Krishna, one more time Krishna. No, nothing like that. Each time he comes in so totally different way. There is no end to his manifestations. And not only that, we are all nothing but his own manifestations. That's why he says in this Vibhuti Yoga, in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that whatever is supposed to be something where you have your appreciation, where you see the love, where you see the compassion, all those things are nothing but his own manifestations. The divinity itself manifests. That's what he says, that look, whatever that you appreciate in somebody, whatever that you really like in somebody, whatever that you feel respectful in somebody, it's all nothing but me. There is nothing else other than me which manifests in that way. And it is that quality which created that human being, which that a person is identified with. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, that all these things are me only. That means to say, essentially, if you look at somebody and see something that you can appreciate, wow, how wonderful it is, how nice it is. That means you're actually looking at the divinity. You're not looking at anything else. But the moment that you look at somebody and completely, constantly complain, horrible, bad, this, that means basically that you are looking the demon. So, if you start looking at something which you can appreciate in the others, when can you do it? When you start appreciating within yourself. You look at yourself something positive, something nice, something which is growing, which is helping. The same thing that you look at the world outside. Let me just recollect the way that how our journey happened when we first started this Prashanti 30 years ago. Hardly one bus used to come in the morning to Jigini from Bangalore and one bus in the evening. And the same bus would go from here back to Bangalore. That was the only bus. On the weekends we used to come here, there was no other building, no other structure excepting Vasishta. So on Friday evening after finishing my work, I would just go home, take a bath and fresh, nice, wonderful white clothes, come to the bus stop. The bus conductor would recognize me that I am somebody going to Prashanti Ashram. They used to call it an ashram. So naturally he would provide a nice place in the bus. But you know what happens. The only bus in the evening coming to this village, covering at least 20-30 villages around here. And usually what happens in the rural buses, if there are place for 30 people, there are always 40 to 50 people in the bus. So naturally, the bus is crammed. And now one fellow comes and sits next to me, coming from one of the villages nearby, having spent the whole day in the city market selling his produce. You can just imagine, a ton of dust he might have gathered on his body, comes and sits next to me. The trouble starts. I'm pained. I'm uncomfortable. He's comfortable. He's dirty. I'm unhappy. He's happy. He's smelling. I'm in trouble. Not he. Look at this. And then now, I have to tolerate him for next 1 hour journey till I come to Jigini. I shrink and he expands. More comfortably he sits. I know a little bit of pranayama, but I can't hold my breath for 1 hour. Wow. It's not one day's experience. It's an experience every weekend. Second weekend, third weekend. After 3-4 weekends experience, I said, why am I unhappy? And he is happy. With all my sophistication, with all my learning, with all my knowledge, I am unhappy. And that fellow, unschooled, village fellow, he is happy. Suddenly I realized one day that the cause for my unhappiness is neither the education nor illiteracy. My happiness does not depend upon my cleanliness or my dirt, but it depends upon my own complaint. And this is in my mind, it's in my heart. Can I rise myself from the level of complaint to tolerate? The moment I tolerate him, I don't have any more suffering. I sit down, he also sits. For an hour we journey, and then he gets down and goes to his place. I get down and come here. One day I was reading Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, where he said, in one of the satsangs he said, we must tolerate every faith, we must tolerate every religion, we must tolerate every understanding. Suddenly something hit him on his head, like he went into trance, samadhi, and when he came back from samadhi, he expressed his realization in samadhi. He said, Divine Mother tells me, it's not to tolerate, but it is to accept. What a wonderful transformation, because when I say I tolerate you, it presupposes that anyway you are bad, but I am so good that I tolerate you. It's actually self-praising. Whereas the moment I say I accept you, that means you may have some lacuna, I also have some difficulties. I may have some qualities, you also have some qualities. So, to rise from the tolerate to accept is a big growth. It's a spiritual leap, development. So the next week onwards, when I sat with him, I accepted him. The moment I accept him, now I can build conversation with him, because after all he is there. The moment he comes to the bus, now I smile at him. Come, you sit down. I offer him the seat next to me. Earlier when I shrink, he would ask his friend, come and sit there. Now rather than that, I will ask his friend, come, you also join. So all three of us we sit. Now I accept him. Naturally I end up in conversation with him. Ask him that, where are you coming from? He says, Nesanur. Oh, it is next to the ashram. I know, sir, that we are going to the ashram. So what did you bring today to the village, to the city? Some vegetables. So whole day that you have been selling vegetables, yeah. How much did you make money? Nothing much. 600-700 rupees? Yeah, 700 rupees. Hey, you say nothing? You have so much money now. So what are you going to do with that? What? So much of expenses, so many things that are there. I think you are going to drink. Oh, I never drink in my life. Hey, last week I saw you sitting in Jigini in that shop. And that's only one time. See, now slowly he agrees. He says, okay, do one thing. Keep 40 rupees for your drinks. Rest of the money you give it to your wife. Okay? Because she has to run the family. Sir, 40 rupees is too less. Can I have 100 rupees? See, he is requesting me. Money is with him. He is going home. I don't even know him. But look at the beauty. The moment that you accept and conversation you develop, a lot of things that you can do with that. Now, earlier when I had complained, this journey for 1 hour used to look eternity. Now that journey looks like 5 minutes. You are already in Jigini. And we get down in Jigini, he will say, sir, I will come along with you so that you can go to the ashram. I go further ahead. I have a company to walk for an hour. What a wonderful state. Now, where is that advantage coming from? It is all coming from the simple level that you raised yourself from the complaint to tolerate to accept. And this is what is the spiritual journey. Bhakti can give you. Love can make you to do that. Only when you are in the state of love, You can accept, you can appreciate. Not only that, when you have that kind of an attitude, look at the way that villager you start appreciating. His innocence, his dependence on you is such a wonderful guy. See, the moment that you accept that you can go to the level of appreciation, do we consciously appreciate? It's a wonderful practice of spiritual journey, Bhakti Yoga. You don't have to sit in the temple, sing the bhajans, etc., etc. Bhakti Yoga simply means that whatever that is there in front of you, if you have an attitude to appreciate, you can see the divinity there. Look at the simple grass plant. What is that mechanism inside that grass plant? That it sends its roots into the soil, picks up something from the soil, and just brings out a 1 inch above, it can create a beautiful flower out of it. If I give you the whole lab, you will not be able to make a flower out of soil. The grass plant can do. Don't you think now you should pay your respect to the grass plant? Where does it come from? It comes from the sense of appreciation. And this is where basically your emotions can help you to rise, journey, step by step, little by little, until come to a level where you can see the divinity in the world. That's why it is said, if you do not find the God in God's creation, where else can you find? Where else can you search? After all, the painter is recognized by his painting. A singer is recognized by his song. You don't go to a singer like Lata Mangeshkar saying that you are a great singer, but your songs are horrible. You cannot say that. She is recognized because of her singing. The same way, God is recognized by His creation. That's why we have beautiful idea about God. The creation has become like Nataraja. Nataraja means basically he danced and the creation started. Now, why did he not create as a poetry? Why did he not say it as a artist painter? Because the painter can be separated from the painting, and music can be separated by the singer, but the dance cannot be separated from the dancer. The dancer himself is what is dance. The same way, you and me, we are nothing but that same dancing divine. We created this world. That's why this whole creation is like a wonderful, beautiful dance of Nataraja. If we have that attitude, then you can see the divinity in the world outside. And if you are able to see the divinity in the world outside, where else do you have to go to practice the Bhakti Yoga? Is it not in the day-to-day life? And once you reach that, you are no more at the body level, you are at the level of consciousness. Love is in between, and love brings you down to the prema, brings you down to the body level, it becomes kama. Prema ennobles you to the consciousness level, that's what becomes bhakti. So, love we are all given. Now, what makes us is that this journey possible, that we all rise with the help of love to go towards that bhakti.